This week, we're joined by a mindful health and emotional coach, it's Duna. Hi, Duna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Before we get into what you do and stuff, can you just explain to people who you are and where you grew up?
So my name is Duna Zurcher, and I was born in Spain, but actually never lived there. So I'm half Spanish, half Swiss. And then I've moved a lot. I've lived in Portugal, in Australia, in Switzerland, so all over the place. And now I'm in the States.
And out of all those places, what's been one of your favourite places to live in?
Oh, that's a very difficult question because I always say that all places have good and bad things, right? And because each place I was living, it was a different moment in my life. It's very difficult to say because really all of them have different things. However, Australia, it was the first time that I actually went so far away and I left everything to go there and learn English. So that's a special one because it was a big, big decision that I made for myself.
I mean, and whereabouts in the States are you now?
Now I am in Texas, in Houston, and I've been here for almost 3 years now.
And you enjoying it, Texas?
Yeah, it's just difficult to get used to the heat.
Yeah. Going from what you sent me, you've been through quite a lot in your lifetime. Are you able to share what's happened on your journey so far?
Well, it's quite a journey.
Yes.
I grew up in Portugal, and we had a restaurant. And and then when I was 12, more or less, my parents divorced, so we moved to Andorra. It's a small country between France and Spain. And I always struggled with my relationship with food and my body. So I always thought I had a problem trying diets and things, and um, always thinking that, well, all people, they are able to eat healthy, and I'm always feeling drawn to all those comfort foods, and I couldn't control myself. And I just thought that that was my problem. I was not able to stick to a diet and all these things. So I was a teacher, and at some point I thought, I need to do something else in my life because I couldn't see myself doing the same thing as a teacher for 50 more years. Um, and at that moment, I felt that I needed to go away and learn English because I wanted to travel. And without English, it's much more difficult to travel. And that's when I decided to go to Australia. And there, of course, my struggles with food and body, they kept, they were still there. And then after 3 years there, I decided that I wanted to go backpacking. So I went to Southeast Asia and I started backpacking on my own. But unfortunately, I had an accident.
Oh, sorry to hear.
Um, and that accident, I broke my knee. So I had to be repatriated to Switzerland because my dad was there to get surgery. So after so many years, I saw myself living with my dad and his girlfriend, my stepmom, who I love, and not being able to walk. Then Corona happened, and I had met someone during my trip. So, being separated was difficult. But then my dad was diagnosed with no, sorry, lung cancer stage 4. So at that moment, with so many emotions coming and being such a bad moment in my life, my issues with food and my body were stronger. And when my dad said that we knew he was going to pass because it was stage 4. And he said to me, I'm very happy with the life that I had. And that for me was like, oh, I want to be able to say the same thing when the time comes. And although I was not unhappy with the life that I had, I mean, I had just been in Southeast Asia, Australia, and all that. However, my struggles with food and my body were always there, constantly there. And that held me back from really being the person I wanted to be and having the life that I wanted. So even though my dad's situation was so, so hard, it also gave me um, a new perspective and it helped me take action towards, working on having the life that I wanted and being the person that I wanted to be. And then I started studying in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I loved it because they see health in a holistic way. It's not only what's inside your plate, but also outside your plate. You might have the best diet in the world. If you engage in toxic relationships, you're not going to be healthy and happy. And that really resonated with me. And I really loved it. And then the last month of life of my dad, I was able to be there with him. But of course, there is where I saw that I was eating emotionally, because it was such a hard time, being with someone knowing that they are going to die, and someone that you love so much. So emotional eating there was just very strong. And there is when I understood what I needed to work on, and that my purpose was to help people overcome emotional eating and healing their relationship with food and their body, because I know how that can hold you back. Because if you're constantly having food thoughts and hating your body and all those things, it's difficult to really be present in your life and be the person you want to be and create the life that you want.
No, see, I've got a couple of questions based around it because I feel like I'm an emotional eater. So when I was younger, between like the age of 15 and 22, I really liked to use a lot of alcohol. Not sitting at home drinking. I was like going out partying, thinking I was having a great time because I was very social and drinking was part of it. But then when I say I grew up and realised that wasn't a good life to live and I was having a family, I now use food. So if I've had a stressful day, I'll go and get a takeaway. If I want to celebrate an achievement, I get a takeaway. If I'm feeling a bit down, I go and grab the sweets. So how much of emotional eating is actually to do with patterns in our mind more than the food itself? Or is there a balance between both?
I think it's very important for us to understand that we all eat emotionally from time to time. You have a bad breakup and you eat the pint of ice cream, that everyone knows that. And that's okay. That's normal. And because all foods serve a purpose, and sometimes we need that food. However, when you eat emotionally and then you feel guilty and ashamed, and it's your only coping mechanism, that is when it becomes a problem. If it's just one more coping mechanism inside a variety of coping mechanisms, well, you have a variety that you can choose from. But when food is your only coping mechanism, then when it's become a problem, because you feel out of control. And like you say, everything, and this happened to me too. Something good happens, I'm going to celebrate it with food. Something bad happens, I need food because I need some kind of reward or comfort. And when food is constantly the to-go coping mechanism, and then you feel guilty and you feel ashamed, that is when it becomes a problem.
And how much do you think food is to do with the environment as well? Because I don't know about where you are, but we're in the UK, where money's very tight, it seems like all you can do to treat yourself is go out for a meal, because it's too expensive to go and do something nice like a night out. Is too expensive. The cinema's getting really expensive. So it just seems like if you want to meet up with friends, you do it over a meal. You go to a restaurant, you go to a pub restaurant and stuff. So can environment play a lot of impact on how much emotional eating you do as well?
So, I mean, if what you want to celebrate with friends, that's nothing bad. However, it's also important to learn other ways to celebrate. And of course, ways that might be more affordable even, right?
Yeah.
And that's really something very personal. For me, for example, I might maybe with food, but at home, make a special meal with my husband and we cook together, or we do some board game night, or painting. I like painting. So maybe a way to celebrate could be, you know what, today I'm going to paint as much as I want. I don't know. It really needs to be something very personal, because something that I might enjoy and might be a good way to celebrate for me might not be for you, right?
Yeah.
So in the work of overcoming emotional eating, you really need to do a big job on being in contact with your body, because a lot of people, when they emotionally eat, they think that they have a problem with food. So what do you do when you think you have a problem with food? A lot of times you diet, or even if you're not doing a diet, a keto diet or whatever, you are having strict food rules. And that creates more tension with the food, because let's be honest, if I tell you, don't think about a pink elephant, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about a pink elephant. When things are prohibited, you want them more. And also, the more you restrict, you're creating a tension inside of you. You want to eat that chocolate. No, I can't. That's bad. And you create a tension. Every time you are restricting, it's like a narrowing bow. And that tension goes further and further. And at some point, it's just gonna go. And then at that moment, you feel out of control. You start eating a little bit of chocolate, but because of all the restriction you have had, you can't have just a little bit. So you have more and more, and you feel out of control. And then you feel guilty and ashamed because you think you have a problem, when in reality is the idea of good foods and bad foods as restricting foods that leads to emotional eating. And also, what's also very important is that most of us, we haven't learned how to sit and feel our emotions, right? And it's not our parents' fault. That's something that in general it's not taught. And it might be, oh, I feel when I'm happy, but uncomfortable emotions, those are very difficult to sit with them. And when we don't want to feel those uncomfortable emotions, food comes to give us that comfort. Sometimes food is like a friend, right? So in order to overcome emotional eating, we really need to look into what you've learned about emotions and learn how to sit, feel, and tolerate those uncomfortable emotions, and then cope with them in a healthy way, in a way that resonates and aligns with you. Because maybe I can give you a list of things to do, but then you need to see what works for you, because what works for me might not work for you. So looking at emotions, but then also looking at your relationship with food. If you have foods that are off limits, if you categorize foods in good or bad, you are creating a relationship with food that is not healthy. So you will always feel drawn to those foods because you are restricting them. And it is crazy to think, because a lot of people, when you say this, they don't understand, or it's difficult to believe. But if you stop restricting foods and stop labeling them as good and bad, you will want them less. Not just at the beginning, but as your body starts understanding that, oh, there's no off-limit foods. I can eat this whenever I want. Oh, okay. So then you feel less the need of eating those foods because you're not restricting them. And at the beginning, it might feel like, if I give myself permission to eat all the chocolate I want, I'm not going to eat anything else. Maybe for 2 days you won't, because your body needs to understand that that food will be available. But if you eat chocolate every day for every meal, how long do you think you're going to last wanting just chocolate? You're not going to last a week eating only chocolate, right? So by dieting and restricting foods, we disconnect from our body, because we are not listening to our hunger cues. We are not listening to our fullness cues, or even our needs. Maybe I don't feel like having a salad and I feel like having fries. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we think that fries are bad. So no, we can't eat fries, right?
No, I totally understand. So, what works for me, and again, I'm not here to say this is going to work for everyone, is intermediate fasting. So, I stop eating after 7 p.m. and start eating again at 8 a.m. And within that period of when you're allowed to eat, you can have whatever you want. And I found exactly what you're saying. The first 2 or 3 days, I just ate. Because I'm thinking, I've got to get that in by 7 o'clock. So, I've got to eat this, I've got to eat that. But then you
Mm-hmm.
get used to of just being able to eat when you want during that time period. I've actually found I've gone back down to my normal or even less eating pattern, because I think,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, there's no point in restrictions on yourself
Mm-hmm.
to what you can and can't have. And by the time you get to 7, because you've ate sensibly, you're not hungry anyway. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I think, like you said as well, it's just routines are very hard to break, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you get yourself into bad habits. I think a lot of things we do is with routine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like you said, once you come to terms with why you're in that routine of doing something, and once you start to break that, it actually becomes easier than you think. It's very daunting to start with, isn't it? Thinking, oh my God, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm not restricted now. Oh, I feel wrong for eating all this chocolate. But like you said, that will plateau out. So you
Yes.
actually don't want that no more. So,
Exactly. It's really when your body understands that there is no off limits, it's kind of, oh, I can have it, okay. And it's not about, oh, I can eat wherever I want, whenever I want. It's really sitting with your body and understanding, what do I feel like having?
yeah.
A salad? Great, I can eat a salad. Do I feel like something else? It's really connecting to our body again. Now, I did intermittent fasting too, and um, it actually hurt my relationship with food further. In my case, I understand that there's some people it works. To me, at the beginning, it did work. However, then when my first meal would be at 1 p.m., I think, and I would be so hungry that I would just eat anything. And there I was like, oh, okay, because I was so hungry. And when you feel hungry, your body's telling you, I need energy. I need food to function. And I understood that for me, if my body's telling me that, I need to give it food as a way to say, hey, it's all good. We're not starving. I'm taking care of you. But there's people that intermittent fasting might work. Like you said, just before you said that it works for you, it might not work for everyone. And
Yeah.
that's why it's important to really understand what works for us. Because I always say there's no one diet that fits all. We are all different, and what can work for you can be very bad for me.
No, exactly. What are the sort of telltale signs that someone needs like your help and support? When is someone ready to come and see you or speak to you?
So usually it's really a lot of people is when they hit rock bottom, and that can look differently to different people. But if you feel that you are constantly thinking about food, you have a lot of, you put morality in food, like there's food that are good and food that are bad. Therefore, if I eat good foods, I'm good. If I eat
Oh,
the bad foods, I'm bad. So food has morality, and you being good or bad is linked to that. When you feel out of control around food, when you are good during the day and then at night you are snacking and can't stop, or good during the weekend but during the week and then binging during the weekend, and always with that guilt and that shame because you think you're eating foods that you shouldn't be eating. And a lot of times it's not just a little bit, you just keep eating because you don't feel satisfied. And one thing that's very important is to understand the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. And because a lot of times we mistake one for the other. Emotional hunger comes suddenly, and you need one thing. It's one thing. And even though you eat that thing, you don't feel satisfied because what you are needing, it's not really food. Like, for example, if you're sad and you say, oh, I need ice cream, and you start eating ice cream, the ice cream might be, you might feel better for a little bit, but the sadness, it's going to still be there. You're not really dealing with that sadness. Maybe calling a friend is going to help you more, or journaling so that you can, throw all your thoughts into the paper. So signs of being an emotional eater is really when emotions come and you turn to food to feel better, and then you feel guilty and ashamed, which might turn you to go to more food because feeling guilty and ashamed, it's not comfortable. And having that unhealthy relationship with food, engaging in diets and food rules, morality in food, um, and those are big red flags, I would say. When those are together, those are red flags. Yeah.
And if people wanted to get in contact with you, how can they do that? And then once you have a client, what is the process? Like, do you have a program that people follow, or?
Yeah. So I do one-on-one coaching for now, and it's a 12-week program. People can go to my website. It's mindfulhealthwithduna.com, or just go to Instagram, mindfulhealthwithduna.com, and send me a comment, and we can hop in a free call to see where they are at, where they want to be, and how we can work together. Because I am not a coach that is going to say, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to eat. I'm going to be there to guide you and support you, but not to tell you what to do. We are going to discover together what is it that works for you. And that's why we need 12 weeks, where at the beginning, we really need to make a foundation of your values, your desires, where you are and where you want to be, and then making the steps to go there. And for now, it's a one-on-one. Maybe in the future, I'll do a group coaching. But for now, I really enjoy having the one-on-one, because it's really an hour where that person and I can really talk about what's going on and how we can start taking action.
And what we'll do, we'll put the link in the description below to your website so people get to you quicker.
Perfect. Thank you.
Being a coach and obviously helping support people, and sometimes you probably hear things that are quite traumatic and stuff. How do you self-care for yourself?
Oh, interesting question. It's a lot of times it's difficult to not take other people's problems into you, right? And this I even learned when I was a teacher, because I had little kids, and they had sometimes such situations at home that you're like, I just want them to be safe, and
Yeah,
you
sorry
want to
to
go.
interrupt. I teach as well. I've been a teacher for the last 20 years, so I totally understand where you're coming from
Yeah.
on that one.
And so I think it's really, you need to do the exercise of, you're there to help and support, but you cannot take action for them. I have my life, and I help you to have the life that you want, but at the end of the day, you are the only person responsible for it. I cannot take action for you. And I'm really there to listen and ask questions to help you understand what you need. So what I do is, before going to a call, is really having like a little meditation to empty my mind of my things, so that I'm receptive and I could create a safe space for the person. And after the call as well, go outside, have a fresh air, and, to take all those problems that we might have talked and all that, they are not mine. I cannot make them mine. And that's very important.
And sorry, I forgot to ask this earlier, because obviously you help support others and coach others. But when you was ready to start the journey of sorting yourself out, what process did you go through to change your relationship with food?
So everything started because when I realized that my relationship with food was unhealthy and was holding me back, that's when I started looking on the internet. I was like, oh, okay, I need to study something to learn more. But I was like, I don't want to do a nutrition course or college or wherever, because I know what I'm supposed to do. Eat more veggies, eat less sweets and less processed food. We all know that. But if it were that easy, we all would do it, right? So, and that's when I came across the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, that, like I said earlier, because it's a holistic view of health, that really resonated with me, because it was not only food, it's food and beyond food. And that really resonated. So when I started studying, and that certification was for a year, I started experimenting and changing my habits. And that started healing my relationship with food. But it was later, when I realized that I was eating emotionally, before my dad passed, that I was like, okay, so I'm still eating emotionally. So there's something that's missing there. So I went to another coach who specializes in intuitive eating, and that I could finish the work that I had started Because, and you know, at the beginning, before I went to this coach, I felt guilty of, oh, but I should be able to do this on my own. I'm a coach. I should be able to do, but we are not. I mean, we are humans, and having help and accountability and support, it's priceless, really, because yes, we can do things on our own, but it's much more difficult, and it might not get the results that you need, because a lot of times with this coach, she would ask me questions that I didn't ask myself. I needed that outside perspective to be able to look inside myself and my past and my present to be able to really heal that relationship with food. So yeah, I was happy that I made that decision, even though at the beginning I felt that it was not okay. But then I was like, no, the same way that people can come to you because they need help, the fact that you're a coach doesn't mean that you don't need help from other people. So doing my training plus the help with this coach, that was what helped me. And it can feel different for different people, because maybe some people are more ready to talk about food than emotions. And that's why I like the one-on-one, because we can tailor the program to that person. We are going to talk about different things, but if you are in a very strict diet, we first need to talk about your relationship with food, and then, you know, there's things that need to be done before others are done. And that's why I like the one-on-one, because we really can go to the needs the person has every week.
No, I totally resonate with what you're saying. So when my mental health deteriorated with what was going on with my wife, because I'm a trained counsellor, I was getting frustrated because I knew what I was feeling, and what I
Mm-hmm.
should be doing. But like you said, I couldn't seem to do it. And it wasn't until I spoke to a counsellor myself that I was
Mm-hmm.
able then to work through the issues I had. So yeah, like you said, only because you're a specialist in the field doesn't mean that you can't get support in that field. So I think that's a
Exactly.
really good bit of advice. Well, we're coming to the end, and it's been a fascinating conversation. But I've got one last question, and this question I ask every guest: if you could be remembered for one word and one word only, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. One word: kind. I think I I I like kindness. I think that if we all would be a little bit more kind to each other, that would uh and compassionate. Oh, kindness and compassionate. Can I choose two?
Yeah, we'll put it together. Yeah, we'll put it all together. No, that's brilliant. And we'll Duna, thank you so much for your time. And I'd love to invite you back on in 6 months' time to see how much further down your journey
I'd love
you
that.
are.
Thank you.
Thank you again, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.